Now, you touched on training with Eddie, and I'm fascinated by this. Your time with Eddie Cummings, you sort of alluded to, and it sounds like we're similar in that respect, that we weren't the most organized individuals in terms of, like you're saying, taking notes and this kind of thing, and being systematic or whatever it may be. And it takes someone like me a lot of just reps, right? Just doing lots of stuff to learn it, right? And to get it. Where it seems like someone like Eddie, and this may be reading into it, just he seems like a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about Eddie? You know him, you knew him, you trained with him for so long, so closely. Can you talk about that whole experience?
Yeah, I like to bring him up a lot because I do give him so much credit for me being able to even do this. But we're totally different opposite. Like, we're complete opposite. Like, I remember, had like file cabinets of notes where,
Wow.
like these file cabinets and notes and notebooks full of technique, full of strategies, notebooks, digital notes, everything. He was, I say, the first scientist of jiu-jitsu. Whenever people ask me, I'm like, he was one of the first guys that's doing all this scientific shit. He was the first guy that I saw that was approaching it that way. Very different from, when I first started jiu-jitsu. It was still a little bit more of like, there was a lot of people that just like the drill thing. I remember like when I first started jiu-jitsu, there was the thing with Kid Dale with like, he doesn't drill, you shouldn't drill. There was all this stuff. And like I said, I'm not a big driller, but being around him, like I said, it helped me see the creative process. It helped me see that a lot of the leg stuff that you see today would not be around without him, and also Jon, and a lot of the stuff that went on. But a lot of things like the stuff like the hip lock, false reap, all those positions, like those things, the early stage stuff with him and Jon, the Jon system and stuff, like a lot of stuff wouldn't be without Jon. And then like Eddie did a lot of like the hip lock stuff and the dash reap stuff, and like a lot of things are Jon and Eddie. And luckily I was able to be around those people to learn those things. So many things that I saw like being figured out and created by Eddie just by training with him every day. That's a once in a lifetime person that I don't think jiu-jitsu is ever going to see again. I'll be honest with you. And, and Jon's an amazing coach, a once in a lifetime coach that I don't think you're ever going to see again. Yeah, but being around Eddie is just, it's what I think everybody is trying to kind of be like that, like super like scientific with it. But he wasn't trying to be super scientific, Eddie. He just was. That's just how his personality is. I talk about him like that, but he's not that. But that's just how his personality was. That's just how he approached jiu-jitsu, was in that way. That's how he approached everything from what I saw in his life. Everything he explained to me, he approached it that way. So it wasn't him trying to be that way specifically to improve his jiu-jitsu. That's just the way his brain works. Certain people I've noticed in jiu-jitsu, just in general, well, their brain works a certain way, and that's just how they do things. His brain just worked in that scientific way that's just how he did things. It wasn't like him doing it because that was what was going to improve his jiu-jitsu. It was just like, that's how he just did it. And so it was actually really interesting to see. Like I said, I got to see a lot of how to develop techniques, like what goes behind it. Is just sitting in a room somewhere for 2 hours, figuring out all the options off an outside scoop grip. I remember one time when I was a purple belt, he took me upstairs from Henzo's. It was me and a couple other people, and we sat there for like 2 hours just figuring out what to do with an outside scoop grip. Something as simple as that, but that's to the extent that he would go with his obsession in figuring things out. Yeah, so I mean, note-taking, like making it completely scientific, that's just how he did things. So it was actually very interesting to see. And I try to take certain aspects because I spent so much time around him of what he does. What he did. I'm thankful that I got to spend time around the people that I did so far in jiu-jitsu. Helped me, it put me ahead, I think, a little bit, and just gave me a lot of experience that I think you don't realize how lucky you are to have those experiences until you meet people that are that wish they were able to be in those situations. People that are training in the middle of nowhere that just really want to be able to learn jiu-jitsu and get to jiu-jitsu, but they're very limited in the information that they have, so they save up all their money for months to come to. Years ago, they would save up their money. I'm sure they still do to go to places like Texas to train with Jon. That's also where it's the instructionals now. It's makes it much easier. But years ago, people save up their money for months just to be able to go to the city and train with Jon, or to be in the room with guys like Gary, Eddie, and Gordon. And now it's you can get all the information online now, but I think it's always good to still go to the source.
Did you know how special the moment was when you were in it, like with Eddie in those early days?
Not really. I think as I get older, I start to realize, like, I would like to think that I was able to see something like jujitsu grow from being in the mix with it, being around the people, like lucky enough to be around some of the people that are responsible for growing the sport. Those people are responsible for growing the sport, you know, and I was able to be around those people, even if it was for a short period of time, even if I was just a guy in the room, you know, I got to be in the room. You know, as I get older now, and sometimes I miss just being the guy in the room. Definitely a special time.